Well, I guess it's gotten started. Back again, Dave Jorgensen, Super Affiliate Network Maniac. And now I'm also an MLSP Maniac. I am here because I have been an entrepreneur now for a year and a half. I've made some money, but not profit yet. I run into tech, like I mentioned yesterday. Got that straightened out, and then I ran out of money. And I have a big burden to be able to show people like me who are on limited incomes and desire a better life. They've wanted it all their life and they've never had it. It's now available. I just wish I had known sooner because I could have done it without going in debt. How would you like to have 10, 15, 20, the sky's the limit, thousand a month coming in without having to put out a bunch of money? Now I want to help people. I want to help people with my money when I make it. I want to help people do it that can't afford it. And I have found a way. I wish I had known it because I wouldn't be in debt for it. I'd be in a lot better shape. I'm not sorry I did it. I'm not at all. I'm just sorry that I didn't know better. But, I want you to know better. I want baby boomers like me, younger people too. But, I really have a burden for the older folks because we are limited to what we can do. Some of our bodies won't let us work. Some of our minds won't let us work. I'm a disabled veteran, 100%. Brain power problems because of stress, post-traumatic stress disorder. It makes you lazy. It makes you procrastinate. It makes you mad all the time. So don't get in my way because I turned loose. That's one of the reasons I had to retire. Couldn't deal with stress. I wish my late wife knew what she had put up with for 39 plus years. She didn't know. Just thought I was a hot-tempered madman. I used to think I was going crazy, because I didn't understand it. Until one day, after she passed away and it was getting worse and worse, somebody handed me a pamphlet. And it was like reading my life's history. It just fit me to a T. I knew right there what my problem was. Post-traumatic stress disorder. And I was having to retire because I couldn't do the job in the ministry anymore. I couldn't deal with the stress. Anyway, so I retired and ended up, took me a year or two. When you with the Veterans Association, you may have something coming, but you got to get the right people working for you. Because I went for 2 years or better with nothing happening. Until one day when my daughter was getting married and I was marrying him, this guy came up to me and he said, I heard about your problem. Because all I had was Social Security and it wasn't enough. We had a few windfalls that carried us through, but he says, you need to go over to Saginaw and see so-and-so. Well, at the time, I was moving in RVs down in Indiana. So in between runs, I ran up to Saginaw and went to see this guy. Just went in 3.5 months, just like the guy told me. I had my full disability. 70% from the post-traumatic stress disorder and 30% because I was unemployable because of it. Because somebody might get hurt. That's basically what my counselor told me. It was the reason because I wasn't employable. he said it wasn't a good idea for me to return to the workforce because I couldn't deal, my anger. My anger was just deep. I would, and I still have to fight that, but I'm getting better. And it's just like MLSP in our entrepreneurship. They say, well, you just have this motto: I'm getting better and better and better, and I am. I am so excited about what I have found, and I told you I was going to share a little more of my life's history with you. I did that in a live video today, and I will try to do it again. Try to do it in two parts. Maybe I can be a little briefer. I got carried away with stories in this morning's live for Facebook, but I'm a Oregonian by birth, but a Washingtonian because that's where I lived. I was born in Portland, Oregon, and my parents lived in the battleground Vancouver area in Washington till I was 5. And they went and moved from there to Northern California. And I grew up in the era where a few times we had an outhouse. That may sound kind of gross to you, but that's the way people did it for a long time. In some areas, longer than others. And my dad had he had a cabin up there in Washington next to my grandfather's farm where he tried to run the farm and, kind of went broke. And so he had to go get jobs. And, but anyway, the cabin, I don't even know if they had electricity. I can't remember. I was 3 or 4 when we lived there, maybe 5. And your memories just aren't, that clear. I remember some things really clear, but we lived up along the Columbia River in a place called North Bonneville before they dammed it up and covered up part of it. And went to work with my dad one day. Can you imagine that? Anyway, he worked on the pond in the sawmill. It was a small sawmill. They knew the guy that owned it and everything. And so my dad was working out on the pond, and I went to work with him, and I was supposed to be playing on the bank. I was not supposed to get in near the water. Well, I had an uncle that was staying with us and working there too. I think he was about 18, Uncle Roland. And he was there, and he went to go across this log from where I was out onto the, main deck of the pond and stuff. And I got to looking at that. I can remember thinking, I could do that. So I followed him. He didn't know it. I didn't make it. I fell in. I can remember to this day just a paw and trying to get a hold of that log that, where I could pull myself out. And all I was getting is pieces of bark and stuff, And happened to be another kid there named David, saw me fall in and hollered at my dad. Well, my dad can't swim, but he ran over there and got me and almost fell in backwards when he pulled me out. But anyway, he got me over in the bank, and I said, am I drowned? Am I drowned? Anyway, needless to say, I went home. They took me home, or I don't remember how they did it. My dad had to take me home, but it wasn't very far. And so then when I was 5, we moved to the Redwood area in Northern California. The Fortuna area is where I grew up. My dad worked in the big redwood mill there at Scotia. I worked there later. But we lived in a place we called the Gulch. It was a hillside, kind of up a little gulch, a bunch of redwood trees. Anyway, there was a big old barn up in there. And there was a little cabin kind of up on the hill across from where we parked that my mom cooked and did the washing and stuff, by hand or whatever. She had a wringer washer. And I'm not sure how they had it, whether they had electricity, but anyway, we slept in the loft of the barn. It's all open. I remember there was either a hoot owl or some kind of owl used to come and perch up there. We could hear him. And maybe it was a spotted owl. I don't know. But anyway, later on, Dad got that all enclosed up there and made a nice living quarters up there. And later on I had a couple of cousins on this morning. They lived there. It was my grandpa Canaan's property. It was his farm up there in Washington that we were on. And anyway, Dad bought a piece of ground over in Fortuna on an old place called Loop Road. Still the home place. One of my siblings lives there now. So it's still in the family, and Mom and Dad are both laid to rest there, and their remains, ashes, and so they're right there at the home place where we lived since about 53 or 2. I don't remember exactly when we moved. I was born in 46, and it was 51 or 50, spring of 52, I think, probably when we moved. And anyway, Dad worked there at the sawmill for 18 years, pulled on that green chain for quite a few years, and then got over in the factory where it was a little easier work. And anyway, I grew up there. I went to a parochial school through 10 grades. Well, actually, my sophomore year, we started when we were almost 8 back then. And so I was, older than a lot of them. I had one kid, he was 5 and he was smarter than all the rest of the class put together. Helmuth Fritz, Dr. Fritz, he became a doctor. And anyway, we graduated from there, and then I went down to Lodi Academy, finished my junior and senior year. I actually spent half of my sophomore year there because my friends went down there the first part of the year, but got homesick and went home, finished up at the 10 grade school, and then went back down that summer and worked in Harris Pine Mill to work off tuition. And when I graduated when I was 19 and a half, it was my senior year when I met my current wife. And I graduated from there and goofed around all summer long, going down to south to see my girlfriend, and then we finally broke up. And anyway, my friends got drafted. They were going in the 6th of September. They were going to go in to the Army together. Several guys, all from the same church and the same area. We went to school together and knew each other. And I thought, man, I'd like to go in with them if I'm going to have to go. So I went and talked to my draft boards, and they said, well, you're probably going to go about November. So I just upped my draft to September, and we all went together, went back to Fort Sam, went through basic, and then went through the AIT, the Advanced Individual Training to be medics, and left. That was in 66 of September, and on the Valentine's Day, we had finished our training, and a bunch of us went to Fort Ord, back home almost. I spent a lot of time hitchhiking back and forth between Fortuna and Fort Ord. I think I hitchhiked from every on and off ramp between there and Fortuna. I mean, we did a lot of hitchhiking. Put our uniforms on, and it worked out pretty good back then, And anyway, so I got, we worked out there for about 7.5 months. I worked in a dispensary, was in charge of the treatment room, and I really enjoyed that job. It was a lot of fun, especially when you got to give those great big penicillin shots they used to give with needles like your finger. You give them to the drill sergeants, and those guys would literally pass out, some of them. Big old tough sergeants. We had a little fun with them because then we'd get the little ammonia tablets out and kind of hold it under their nose a little longer than necessary. Oh, people will be people, won't they? Anyway, well, you get even with them for the way they treated you in basic training, Anyway, so that fall, around October or so, I had 11 months left in the service. We went to Vietnam, and stupid me, I was kind of glad just for a change and see what it was like. Yeah, I mean, you might not come back. Why would you want to go see what it was like? So anyway, I just had this thing in my head. I'd get to work in a hospital somewhere and it'd be safer and all that stuff. And so anyway, I went over there and I was in the holding barracks near Saigon. I was supposed to go up north to play coup, but somehow they got it changed and I went down south. And after about my third day in the holding barracks there, waiting for my orders, I heard my name one morning when we were in formation, and it said Jorgensen, David W., 25th Infantry Division. My boots were full of my heart. Oh, that was not the news that I wanted. And it was not the news I wanted when I met the sergeant either. Because he said, oh, the guys are going to be glad to see you. We just lost 3 or 4 medics. And he didn't mean they went home. They went home, but they went permanent home. Just what you want to hear when you're going to the infantry. Well, I got in there. I was with a bunch of good guys. And we were securing the Bien Hoa Air Base. But I was allergic, evidently, to the Agent Orange. You know, they spray a lot of that around to keep the foliage down, especially around an air base. And I'd get high so bad you wouldn't even recognize me. My whole body was basically, my back felt like the skin wouldn't even bend because it's just a big welt. You know, my lips would puff way up, my nose would puff way up, my eye would puff shut, my hands I couldn't open and close them. It's a bad deal. And several times they sent me back and they got them cleared up. And by the time I got back out to the infantry there, they were again. The last time, especially, the CO out there told me, he says, don't you come back again until they've got that figured out. But when you're in the Army, you take orders from wherever you're at. So I told him what he said. And they got them cleared up and they started sending me back out. And I said, well, okay. He said not to come back till they're sure. And they said, go. So you take orders from where you're at. And I got back out there and we traveled in a light rain with no covering on the back of the Deuce and a Half. That light rain with all that Agent Orange in it. By the time I got there, was all swollen up again. I mean, it was only a few hours there. And he says, I thought I told you not to come back. I said, well, sir, they said to go. I told them, and I have to do what they say. So anyway, he just sent me right back. So then they started the process of transferring me to a rear outfit. Well, in the meantime, we got transferred up to a place called Tay Ninh. We were in Cu Chi, which is actually, I just found out from a Vietnamese fellow here. He's half Vietnamese and half American. They have a toenail place where my wife goes all the time, and fingernails and all that stuff. And he told me that Cu Chi is kind of a museum now because the DC had the whole place honeycombed underneath of it. They could come up anywhere they wanted and, do whatever they wanted. So that wasn't such a hot place to be either. My friend was there in the hospital unit and he stayed there the whole time. But we were 40 miles northeast of Saigon, and Tay Ninh was about 80 miles northeast of Saigon, 6 miles from the Cambodian border. And we just got there and I celebrated my 21st birthday. I have a picture. My 21st birthday in November in Tay Ninh, Vietnam, on my 21st birthday on Thanksgiving Day. My birthday falls on Thanksgiving now and then. And anyway, the next day they were going to go out, but they had already told me, you stay here tomorrow and get yourself processed, get all your paperwork done. So when the orders get here, you're ready to go. My guy said, are you going with us today, Doc? And I said, well, They told me no because they want me to get my paperwork all done so that when the orders get here, I can leave. And I said, if I'm still here tomorrow, I'll go with you. And as I was going through the company streets and different buildings, getting my paperwork all done, you can hear over the radio, they got hit bad, lost 6 or 7 guys, arms and legs missing, and the dog trainer. And they were right in our hooch the night before. It was like, oh man, I was just playing cards with him, one guy says. Anyway, and so I had no idea how fortunate I was to get out when I got out. Because later on, when I was in the ministry in Northern California, I talked to a little Vietnamese pastor that was at a pastor's retreat. And he told me when he found out where I was, he says, you're lucky to be alive. He said, almost everybody that went there died. He said, they never did take that mountain. It was the Black Virgin Mountain. That was our mission, to take that mountain. He says, they never did take it. So I figured probably all of the guys that I was with were killed. I have no idea. But they were a good bunch of guys. They take care of the medic, boy. Let me tell you, Doc really rules there. But anyway, I moved up 300 miles north of Saigon to a place called Chu Lai, right on the beach. Our company was on the bank. We could go down to the beach and swim. And anyway, it was kind of cool. I did a lot of snorkeling. Well, first I drove for the first sergeant. I had a nice job driving the first sergeant's Jeep, sitting there reading all day and taking him wherever he wanted to go. Then they did away with that job, and and I ended up being a night. Well, no, I went from there to the garbage run. Now that sounds like a terrible job. Yeah, nasty. You don't get dirty hardly. I mean, you got all these barrels and things that you haul with the dump, that has all the food there. And anyway, when you get done in the morning, you don't go empty the garbage cans out. You leave them in the deuce and a half. That's what's the protocol. Because we had more people there that didn't know what to do with us. They had too many medics there, and they're crying for them out in the field. And in fact, we had so much harassment there that a lot of guys signed up to go out in the infantry in different places because they couldn't handle the harassment, the inspections. I mean, just crazy. Like this, a vehicle that's been disabled for 6-8 months, doesn't run, doesn't move. Every day, you got to go out there and crawl under it, check the transmission, check the rear end, and it get all dirty for nothing. That's how ridiculous it was there where I was, inspections and stuff. And I could see, making sure things are nice, but they didn't know what to do with us. So anyway, we leave those cans in the garbage in the truck. So at noon formation, are you finished with your job? Nope, we're not finished yet. We got to go. And so, we just go unload them and take the deuce and a half to the USO beach. Go swimming and snorkeling down there. The whole afternoon to do what we wanted. It was fun. And then later on, I ended up driving ambulance at night. For a while, I worked ours was a rear aid station where people recuperated from their shrapnel wounds and stuff, and you treat them there and give them their meds. And then I went to night ambulance driver. Now that was a good job because the place up there, the emergency room, was air conditioned. And most of the night, I slept on a stretcher unless I got a call. And most of the kind of calls she got back then was some guy trying to play like he was crazy. You'd be surprised what guys do just to try to get out of there. They got to get out of the before they die, and they pretend like they're crazy, and they really get crazy. But anyway, that was a good job. But they, I'd been there. I went on R&R to Australia from there in June, I think it was. But anyway, they decided to start up a mission where we would go and supply. They had a forward aid station. And this new job was, we had to go and travel Highway 1, which was heavily mined. And I had a real good friend. He was my catcher. We played softball over there too sometimes. I was a fast pitcher and he was my catcher. And so we became real good friends. So we were going together on this deuce and a half. And I showed up, to the group when they were getting ready to disperse. And the doctor says to me, "Where do you think you're going?" I said, "I'm going on this mission." He says, "No, you're not." He says, "You're going down to Quin Yon to have them get those hives figured out." Because they had come back and they were bothering me again. And anyway, I'd been down there a month or two. I can't remember how long exactly, but anyway, they weren't doing anything. I was just sitting there eating ice cream and drinking Kool-Aid all day and reading Westerns. And, and the doctor come by once a day. "Hello, how you doing?" And that was it. So I got to start getting close to my ETS date, the time to get out of the Army. And so I said something to one of the nurses about it. If they're not going to do anything more with me, why don't they let me go back to my company area and I can maybe get some souvenirs and get my stuff ready to go? She said, "Well, how much time do you have left?" And I think I had about 40 days then. And next day, the doctor comes through and he's, "Pack your bags, Troop. You're heading for the world tomorrow." Well, I didn't have much there with me. My friends had to get it all bagged up for me. So anyway, that's where I ended up. I ended up going home. And when I got home, I found out that my best friend had gotten killed. He hit a mine. I would have been with him. I had this little sag because I got home early and I went and hitchhiked up to our church camp meeting. And there was my future wife. We didn't know that, but we grew up together, went to school together, were neighbors, and had even been sweet on each other in the 8th grade. She became my wife for 39 plus years until she passed away with cancer at 60 in 2008. And got married right away. And I'm going to continue the story tomorrow because I've already gone 28 minutes and 34 seconds or whatever. And, but this entrepreneurship, I really do. In fact, it's in my head to produce a course that people can take so that they can do this without spending hardly any money. It is such a fantastic thing. And if you're interested in it, somehow get a hold of me and let me know. And I can, I'm going through a course right now on building your business fast on YouTube. Fantastic course. And so if you're interested in that course, I don't know what your background is or whether you're an entrepreneur or not, and if you have any desire, I can get you access to that training free for a limited time. And so just message me or, on Facebook or on YouTube. Anyway, I will try to put a link in this when I get it on there, where you can check it out. And well, you can check me out anyway. I'll put my emails and stuff in there. And anyway, until tomorrow, goodbye.